Hi, I'm Scizors. My pronouns are they and them. I'm originally from northeastern Washington state. There's a small town named Chewelah. It was like I mentioned, it was a very conservative region, hella racist. It was like the kind of places where people would just like say words I wouldn't even say in the hallway in school. And it was interesting because I was like a little like queer punk kid growing up and would get just straight up beaten up for it. The same kids who would beat you up would later try to talk to you about like, why do you want to be so different? And I'd be like, well, why do you just want to be like everybody else? I don't get it. And so it was just in a lot of ways, it was a great place to be a kid. There was like, I got to go swimming, I got to go fishing, I got to go ride my bike. But then we lived in this trailer park that I call Bethlehem, that was just brutal. It was like, there's like a trailer park, a lumber mill, a crossroads tavern, and 60 miles, there's nothing, like 20 miles from anything at all, 60 miles from like a city of 50,000 people. And so there's just nothing to do. And that's where you get into trouble in a place like that, is you're just bored. You just want someone to tell you no and shit like that. So anyways, yeah, it was like an interesting place to be from. I don't think there was, I've had kids like just straight up like beating me up for being different, for thinking I was queer or whatever. And so that's, it's difficult. You definitely, I think for me, I kind of like associated with being a weirdo at that point, and like kind of didn't help my like tendency towards being an extremist at all. But it definitely does not do good things for your mental health to have that kind of like negativity and violence around you every day. And you definitely wind up with a lot of things to unlearn growing up, and a lot of things to kind of confront inside yourself about about like equality and shit like that. Yeah. I mean, a lot of the kids that I was like really tight with are dead or in jail. There was just, the job outlook was like, you're going to go work in a lumber mill, or you're going to work at a grocery store. And meth was running rampant in my community, and I never used it. I was actually straight edge until I got out of high school. And because I realized that drugs and alcohol and shit like that were trapping people who wanted to leave this shitty town so bad, but they were trapped there. And so, I think that contributed to that pretty heavily, was like, just had this desire to get out of there for sure. I don't know if I had a lot of goals growing up. I kind of was raised, like I said, in this sort of bleak place, and I always thought I was going to die young. And actually, I did die of a septic blood infection at the age of 27, but I lived through it. And I have to then, as an adult, like looking forward to a life that I never planned for. And so you're like, I lived really hard. I just was like a punk rock kid who was going to live hard and die fast. And then you live through it, and you have all these aches and pains every day because you weren't planning for your future. You weren't going to the doctor and getting health care and taking care of all that shit that you should do. And so pretty much like I guess my goal was just to get out of that place in any way possible. And I remember after graduating, I was just doing nothing, going to community college, like one class a semester, so that I could get grants to live. And because I was like, we were poor kids, I didn't have any money, and I didn't want to work. I hated the thought of being exploited for my labor, even at a young age. And then my friend calls me up on the phone. He's like, yo, get in the van. My dad's driving to Seattle in a week, and I'm going to give you $1,000 just as a gift, and you're going to get in the van because you need to get out of there. And so I packed up my shit, got in the car, and left, and never looked back. One friend, yeah. This kid, Chris Mallory, he changed my life, like straight up. Just got me out of a terrible place and into Seattle, where I could like see that there were good people, that I wasn't a freak, that there was nothing wrong with me, and that I could just thrive. Oh, it felt hella free. Like to see people who looked like me, to see people who looked weirder than I did. And like I moved into Seattle, which in the late 90s was very like goth, a very queer city, very punk rock. And so I wasn't even the weirdo there. I was a small town kid just trying to be crazy. And so it was liberating, and it was eye-opening, and I got to see that there was more to life than I imagined, and that I actually maybe could have a chance to travel and see the world. And so I started working hard and traveling and opening my mind to the fact that like there's so much more than what I came from. Yeah, most of my friends who started getting caught up in the legal system before I did were just come in and out of jail. I didn't get caught up into it until later in life. I was actually really good at not getting caught. And I would say I used my privilege pretty hard on that. Like, I remember times getting pulled over, all kinds of stuff in the truck, and I would just laugh and smile at the cop and be like, haha, that would make your day if I had that in the truck, wouldn't it? Kind of vibe. And just getting away with it. And so, as a kid, with like no real thought of what your future is going to be, and a lot of anger at the poverty and the way that I was getting treated, like mistreated by other kids. We just wanted to get some kicks. We just wanted to have some fun. We wanted to, I think sometimes we were just trying to be told no, but the ways that looked would become like reasons to go to jail for sure. And some of it was just for fun. Some of it was because we were broke. I'm pretty lucky at this point in my life where, it doesn't really seem to negatively affect me on like a daily basis, but then I do think it's had an effect on my career choices. I worked in the underground cannabis industry for like 15 years. And if you look at my resume, there's a huge gap where I have managed to fill some things in. But if you dig deep at all, you're going to be like, what were you doing during these time? And the amazing thing is, through all that work, I learned valuable skills, like leadership and team building and how to not get caught and distribution and all kinds of stuff. But that doesn't easily translate into a resume in very many industries. And I managed to translate that into the modern cannabis industry, but then have a spine injury and can't really do that work anymore now that I'm disabled. And I also just kind of found the modern cannabis industry to be disgusting. The way that it's like become hella capitalistic and whatnot was not something I really wanted to get into. I think just that feeling of freedom, that feeling that there might be a future. I also fell in love. I got married to this awesome woman named Jessica. I'm divorced now, but young divorcees of the world unite. Anyways, so that I think falling in love and feeling like there might be a future. I went and got a job as a landscaper, and I was trying real hard. And that was before I started working like hardcore in the underground cannabis industry here in the Bay Area later, and in Seattle too, kind of before that. But back then I was really just trying to keep my head clean and do good, and I was managing a landscape company and just workaholic. I mean, I was expected to work 60 hours a week, back-breaking work. That's where my spine injuries began at the age of 19. So I think it was like the silver lining was that getting out of the small town, getting out of what I thought was going to be like a lifetime of hell, Yeah. And finding love and feeling for the first time in my life like that maybe my life had value, because I never thought I had any value to my life, and it's easy to throw it away if you're not worth shit. I had everything going against me that you might have going against you, but I don't have the color of my skin going against me. And so I could cut my beard, shave my head, or cut my hair, wear long sleeves, and wear a suit, and people open doors for me that I do not belong in. I've done it like as an activist to go like mess with the Republican National Convention and things like that. You just clean up, put on a suit, and white people open doors for you. And so like, even though I struggled, even though I felt like there was no future, I didn't have that going against me. I did have the color of skin that grants you entry, so to speak. Well, and what's interesting is like, even though I was born poor white trash, with like, the world doesn't value me at all, I'm a white male born in America, and the whole system is designed to make me succeed, whether I try or not. That's why we have so many mediocre white men leading the nation, because all they have to do is show up and get congratulated, It's time for a change on that for sure, Therapy. Straight up. I mean, here's the thing though, like, I was severely, brutally sexually abused as a child. I don't remember it. It was before I was like from like until I was 5 years old, But when that kind of trauma happens to you at that young of an age, it is instilled in your psyche. It changes who you are. You respond to things in trauma. Like something that shouldn't be a big deal, you're going to get angry and blow up at, And so even though all this anger I had was righteous, it was tearing me up inside my whole life, And I used to just rage, like if shit wasn't going good, I would get a box of glass and go to an abandoned like shipping crane and just scream and break the glass until I felt better, And then and there's nothing unhealthy about that. That can be good. I would clean up the glass too and like be a good kid, But now I'm learning to use my words and to talk about it and to understand that like, oh, this anger is just the tip of the iceberg. I'm actually feeling hurt. I'm actually feeling rejected. I'm feeling like what you said shows me that you don't value me, things like that. So really just through therapy and deep introspection and trying to understand like that even though all these things were done to me, even though my life didn't have value to the world, it did have value to me. Like I am valuable and I do love myself. And so that's where I think the change comes from, I was really lucky in some ways. We had a small community with a lot of money for education, and that's one of the ways that America's gone wrong. We have defunded education decade after decade after decade. We've put all the money into prisons and all the money into police. And, the textbooks are just garbage now. They teach that slaves were happy and shit like that, And so if you don't know your history, you're going to repeat it. And like I said, luckily I had computers in the classroom. So in like 6th grade, I was learning emails on an old Apple IIc computer, and on I remember the original black and white screen, little tiny cute Mac, And so I loved computers. I thought it was super fun. I liked playing games. I got to send emails and stuff like that. And my whole life I've been into computers. I remember I never used to buy computers. I would just get like a free Windows laptop that's just a brick and it won't even boot Windows anymore. And my friends taught me to put Linux on it and run it for years. And so and now like I just built my first PC recently. It's like a dual boot Linux Windows machine. And so I've always kind of had this interest in technology, but I really never thought I was smart enough to learn to code, And then it was just a door open and I jumped through it. The Not 911 app, I saw the Medium article about it, and I was really excited. I'm all about police abolition. And I was like, yo, is there one of these for the Bay Area? No. And you guys' response was like, no, but you can make it. And I was like, well, I don't know how to code. And they were like, well, we have this mentorship. And I applied. I didn't even know what the requirements were. And then it turns out that because I had been involved in the justice system, that's where I got lucky finally. And I get to now get this like really important one-on-one mentorship time, where like I have a bunch of friends who've been going through these boot camps, like for UI and UX. They're spending like $15,000 to $30,000 for a 16-week course, and here I am 6 months in with one-on-one mentorship, hours a week, and they're like in a video room with 30 people, not getting any attention for their questions and stuff. So I just really appreciate what I've got here with Emergent Works, I mean, definitely the beginning of the first cohort, I had never once seen HTML or CSS or JavaScript or React or TypeScript. I didn't even really know what these things were, So the first cohort was just really hard. I was like, I do not have what it takes to do this. This is too hard. It makes my brain hurt. It made me think I might have COVID fog. It was that difficult. And my mentor, Mark, great guy, Mark Hansen, way went above and beyond, like spent twice the amount of hours with me than he was like required to, and really like tailored lesson plans for me to learn this stuff. And he told me that I had an aptitude for it. And even though I didn't believe it in my heart, I just tried to believe him because I need this, So then like now I still have hella imposter syndrome, but I remind myself that I've only been doing this for 6 months. I went from like working on a web design framework. Now I'm working on an app, which is similar. It's React, it's JavaScript, it's no HTML or CSS. Well, there's CSS, but then the React is React Native and not React for web. And so and now we're using TypeScript. So there's all these little things that, like in TypeScript, certain things look exactly like JavaScript, and it's actually really been confusing for me, and I'm starting to figure that out and be able to recognize that now. But so now for me, it's like this, I know I can do it, but then the challenge is that I've kind of jumped in the deep end on another project, that's not similar enough to the last project where I'm not like a little more confused about it. I don't know if that made sense the way I said it, but it's like I went from like jumping in the deep end on a web project to jumping in the deep end on an app, and I think I'm going to have to kind of come back together and really hammer home like the fundamentals of JavaScript and React and TypeScript and stuff like that, because I'm kind of swimming in it still, like a little confused, you know. I'm working on Not 911. So there's my last project was a Not 911 web app for the Bay Area. And what was really cool about that project is we took the what you call like the source of truth, where the data for the resources, like each organization that you're going to call instead of 911, instead of being hard coded into the app where you have to have a developer type that in, is coming off of an Airtable spreadsheet, so that like a volunteer could get on, add a resource, and you don't have to change the code. And now what I'm doing is working on making that for the actual Not 911 app that's in the Google Play Store. And while we're making it come off of the Airtable so that you don't have to go through a Google Play Store review process every time that you add a new resource, we're also making it so that you can be nationwide. So currently on my local development version, not only do we have New York City and San Francisco, we have Boise, Idaho, and Chicago, and I'm about to add Seattle. These are the other cities where people have just been inspired like I was to make their own app. I did what you told me to. I made my own app, you know, and now what's so cool is this project that really inspires me, because in my punk rock queer community, we don't call the cops. And the problem is we didn't know what to do about it for so long. And now we have this extra resource where we can try to triage, is there some community group that will support the situation without having cops show up and make it worse, you know? So I'm excited to see the, I think in the next few weeks or so, the kind of nationwide launch of Not 911. And since that the new app is going to be coming off of an Airtable source of truth, we won't have to redo, like I said, the Google Play Store every time that somebody adds a resource, and we kind of have a chance to give this to the community as a gift, be like, yo, give this life beyond us, you know, and that's what I'm excited to see happen next. I think the biggest changes I want to see in the tech space is pay equality, and I want to see not me in the mirror. I don't want to be in a room full of white men. I want to see everybody get a chance to do this. I want to see the disparity between the wealthy and the poor. Like here in San Francisco, we've got billionaires walking down the street and just stepping over the body of somebody laying in the street who has no house. And it's obvious living here that there is way more than enough resources to house everybody, to solve every problem we've got. And I want to see that money not being hoarded to make somebody a billionaire, because once you add that extra zero, it doesn't even make sense how much money you have. And so I want to see more of a community where we live in this city, we take care of this city, we help the people who have less than us, because that's how I was raised. I was raised, you help others, you know. Top of the world, just like this is a takeover, you know, like the rockers. This is a takeover moment. I just want to see every one of the people in this cohort, like Dino and Brandon and Roz and Charmaine and Janae, I want to see them at the top of companies. I want to see us like infiltrating the tech industry and just straight up shaking it up and changing it, you know. I don't even know how to answer that. I hope to be working remotely and able to live wherever I want in the world, so that I can really just enjoy the rest of my life, because I feel like my first 40 years was just fight or flight mode. And I'm like, I'm tired and I'm looking forward to something different. And I'm hoping that this can be a path to do that, you know? I'll just be like, girl, you got this. Like, you are smart enough. You are worthwhile. And yeah, this is hard. It's going to be hard. It's going to make your brain hurt. But you're worth it. This is worth it. This might be the vehicle to change your entire like family's life generational, because you know, like, wealth is generational, and we have a chance right now to start building that. And so I would just say, believe in yourself, do it. It's going to be hard, and it's worth it, you know. I just want to say thanks, I guess, for doing this. Thanks for like believing in yourself and taking those big steps, you know, because it's time for change, you know. Like way beyond time for change. Hi, my name is Scizors, and I am a former mentee of Emergent Works, and I am a proud member of this community, and I believe that excellence in code can truly come from anyone.